Welcome, everyone. We're so excited to have you joining us for another episode of our 2023 Harness Giving webinar series. My name is Simonne. I'm excited to be your host. We know that fundraising can be challenging. That's why we've brought together some of the top experts in the field to speak on topics they know best. Today's session is called Don't Start at Zero, where Michael Buckley from the Kilo Group will be sharing ways to create and grow your organization's monthly giving program. A little bit about Michael. A career fundraiser, Michael J. Buckley is a nonprofit consultant, coach, and speaker whose work focuses on small and medium-sized nonprofit organizations. He has assisted nonprofits across a broad spectrum of focus areas to increase dollars, exposure, and capacity to support the work of their organization. As the founder and managing partner of the Kilo Group, Mike's extensive experience includes annual campaign audits and management, capital campaign leadership, feasibility studies, interim and ad hoc program leadership, board governance, strategic planning, and capacity building. Mike is an effective and sought-after national level speaker and has been an invited presenter at an array of professional development opportunities, including the Association of Fundraising Professionals International Conference on Nonprofits, the National Association for Animal Welfare Advancement, and the Northeast Annual Giving Conference, Mid-South Philanthropy Conference, and serves as founding faculty for the Institute of Nonprofit Leadership and Community Development at the State University of New York at Albany.
Giving doesn't have to be just monthly. It can be quarterly, it can be weekly, it can be semi-annually. So we're going to use the term monthly and recurring sort of interchangeably today. And frankly, I'm probably going to use both and forget which one I said the most. But just keep in mind, as an overarching conversation, I just want to say, it doesn't have to just be monthly. I'll tell you personally, I make a gift to an organization whose board I sit on, and I send that every other week. It's just easier for me to make that level of commitment every other week. So just keep that in mind going forward. We're going to talk about monthly giving, but really it means a scheduled plan, a scheduled recurring giving program. Today, we're going to talk about three different things. We're going to sort of break this into three different ways to talk about, or three different topics. First of all, establishing your recurring giving program. There's a lot of good steps that I think every organization should or could and should take to put sort of the foundation together around their recurring giving program. We'll talk about the rationale. Believe it or not, I'm sure a lot of you, or some of you, I should say, I hope none of you, but there are probably some of you who might experience some resistance. You know, you have to make an investment into recurring giving. So providing rationale for your organization to do it. We'll talk about logistics, we'll talk about marketing. Ultimately, we'll also then talk about how do you launch your program? How do you make it the most effective, awesome program that you can have out there? And the truth of the matter is it's no different than just what we do every day. Just as we steward and cultivate and solicit donors, we need to do that in a recurring giving program. And then we'll talk about evaluation. You know, a lot of recurring giving programs sort of come with the mentality of set it and forget it. We want people to set it and forget it, but ultimately we don't want organizations to forget the donors who are in our program. But let's kick off, and Simonne, I'll draw your attention to this poll question. Let's talk about, just so I get a good sense of who is on the call, do you or does your organization currently have a structured recurring giving program? Log on in or weigh on in, I should say, into that poll. Curious how many folks have one, how many folks don't have one, and that'll help us gauge our conversation a little bit. So Simonne, in the interest of, oh, there we go. I was going to say, I have no idea when it's going to close.
I was just going to say, I was about to close it.
Well-oiled machine. So 41% of you said that you do have one, and then 26% said no, 33% said no, but we're looking to start one. Great. So for those of you who are on the call today who do have a program, really hone in when we talk about evaluation and evaluating your program and how to grow your program, because even if you have one, there's always ways to improve it. And let's talk about another quick poll. And I'm curious, although we don't have it set up this way, if the folks who do have a program would answer no to this question, because that happens a lot. Does your organization have the infrastructure for a recurring giving program? And by that I mean, do you have a database? Do you have a payment processor? Do you have a gift entry clerk who is handling recurring gift entry? Do you have the infrastructure in place, database, and other necessary tools like a payment processor in order to create your monthly giving program?
I'll keep you posted on this one. We're waiting for a few more answers, and then I can end the poll.
Don't be shy. I don't know who you are. If you don't have the infrastructure, there's no shame.
Okay, I'm closing.
Great. So that's awesome that 81% of the people who responded to this said that they do have the infrastructure. If you don't, for that small number of people who didn't, who answered that they don't, keep that in mind as we go forward. In order to really have a good recurring giving program, you need to have a database, you need to have a payment processor, you need to have the structure in place to keep this going. We'll talk about all that a little bit later. Before we dive in, I'll share with you when I started in this wonderful field of fundraising as a student phone-a-thon caller, I actually also had a part-time job working in the alumni relations office. And this is back in the late 90s before PCI compliance or any of that. And we had a recurring giving program. What that recurring giving program was is that every month the bookkeeper would go into her drawer and take out an index card with your credit card number on it and just process it every month on the first of the month. So we hopefully are beyond that. If you answered yes to the infrastructure question, and you have anyone at your organization who is manually processing credit cards, you probably need to update your infrastructure just a little bit. But we've come a far way, luckily, especially with PCI compliance. So I want to share with you, one of the reasons why I am so passionate about recurring giving, and I think it's really important that organizations have a structured, developed program to attract these donors, is really, frankly, because of the dawn of the subscription. I'm sure for many of you, if not all of you on this call, you have things that automatically show up at your house, a lot of them through Amazon. I have a wonderful dog whom I love dearly, and every time Amazon somehow knows, or they have figured out, that we need to order dog food, let's say every 8 or 10 weeks or whatever, and I get that reminder. So we are really, in recurring giving, making sure that we're taking a little bit of that for-profit sense and bringing it into the nonprofit world. It's hard sometimes to remember to do those one-off things, right? It's hard sometimes to remember to order dog food, and you may or may not put it off. But if you have a subscription to something, it automatically happens. So think about that as you're starting to think about the rationale. Think about, even if you do have a program and you do have current members, these things are set it and forget it. Certainly, set it and forget it is a very important part of why this says that setting a recurring giving program is really important. How many times have you forgotten to cancel a subscription that you needed? How many apps do you have on your phone that you have forgotten to cancel? It creates a better bond ultimately with your donor if you are able to convert them to recurring donors. It also automatically creates a better bond with your donors in terms of retaining them. One of the other reasons I'm very passionate about nonprofit organizations having a clearly defined and marketed and resourced recurring giving program is because I think it's really important, because it really positively affects donor retention. Happy to nerd out with any of you individually on your donor retention rates, but if you've had an opportunity to look at those donors who your organization retains year over year over year, it may surprise some of you at how low that percentage is. The national percentage across all nonprofits is hovering at about 42%. So what that means is that for every 42 donors that you keep at your organization, 58 of them run away from you year over year. Those who are setting and forgetting it, those who are in your recurring giving program are donors that are going to stay with you. They're staying with you over and over, and they're making monthly gifts. They're not forgetting to give to you that one time they always do. Instead, for the purposes of this conversation, let's say they're taking their payment and spreading it out over 12 months. Certainly better connections with your donors. Not only is donor retention really important, but these are your people. These are your most loyal donors. And much like planned giving, for those of you who have been in the field for a while, you know, donors who give $100 to you every year for 20 or 30 or 40 years, those are your best planned giving prospects, right? For these donors, for these recurring gift donors, those that give to you month after month after month, these are your best major giving donors. These are the ones who have prioritized you in their financial plan. So the rationale there, not only to keep your donors, but to show to allow you to identify those who are most loyal to you. These are your people. Also, and finally, it really helps with better revenue projection. If you know that your donors are sticking with you, if you know that I'm going to give you $100 a month every month, it's really easy for you to project out that my total gift will be $1,200. I don't want to spend too much time on that because I think that gets into accounting and math, and that's hard on a Wednesday afternoon. But again, happy to talk with anyone in more individual detail. But you're also likely, and this is the number one reason I think to create a recurring giving program, it allows people to make a bigger impact. I don't know about anybody on this call, but interestingly for me, the thought of writing out a check for $500 sounds a lot harder than writing out a check of $50 a month. Keep that in mind too, especially with board members. If your organization has an expectation that your board members give a certain amount every year, dividing that by 12 is really important. Now, the other thing you'll notice is that the example I gave was $500 versus versus 12 checks of $50. Obviously, 50 times 12 is $600 and not $500. So you'll see people give more. You'll see people increase their impact and give $50 a month as compared to $500 a year. And think over time what that means for revenue for your organization. The other thing, the reason to do it now is January is the month. Keep this in mind here on January 25th. We've got 6 days left this month. Think about how you can start or ramp up or highlight your recurring giving program. It makes sense. Research shows that the majority of recurring gift commitments are made in the month of January. I've got clients who have taken donors who have given to them in November and December and said, hey, your gift of $100 in December was great. Thank you so much. Would you be interested in making a gift of $10 a month per month next year in 2023? Increased revenue, increased donor commitment and retention, and also showing you who your loyal donors are. If you can split gifts over 12 months as compared to 8 months or 2 months or any other month, you folks are going to do it. So research shows that this is the month. Market your program strongly if you haven't already. Encourage your donors who gave to you in quarter 4 in October, November, December. Take that gift amount, ask them to pay it over 12 months and join your recurring giving program. It's easier for the donor to do it. And most importantly for you, it's guaranteed, as much as anyone can guarantee, it's guaranteed revenue for your organization. And let's talk about some non-tangible donor benefits. A lot of the work that we do in the CLO group is in environment, and a lot of our environmental clients really want to highlight the non-tangible donor benefits for organizations. Certainly, saving the cost of solicitations. If you are in a recurring giving program, you're not going to, and you maybe should not. That's a gut check for an organization. some organizations, most organizations, I will say, will remove all recurring donors from any other subsequent direct mail piece. So, which is fine. And it's more than okay. Donors are already committed to your organization, so there's no need for them to be solicited again. Some folks choose to do it in hopes that donors will give again or give more, but it's certainly for your organization, it's up to your organization to make that call. But marketing to individual donors that you will save, that the organization will save the cost of the solicitations is actually quite a positive, non-tangible benefit for the donor. Certainly a better investment for the environment. If you're an environmental organization, think about that messaging for your organization, and it's a better return on investment. For those donor benefits, they know that their gift is going to go to work right away for your organization and not cause the organization to have to spend more money to raise more money. Think about too, before we dive into a little bit more of the details here, think about too about tangible donor benefits, benefits that you may want to consider offering folks as you build out your program. I'm not a fan of giving something getting something when a donor gives. I'm not a fan, with all due respect, to the public television model where you give $35 and you get a free CD. But for your recurring gift donors, think about ways to give them a benefit. Again, remember what I said in the beginning. We're going to talk about revenue, and revenue is important, but these are your folks. These are the folks who have made a substantial commitment to your organization in terms of time and level of commitment. Maybe not money, but over time that will grow. So think about, how do you offer a non-tangible benefit to your recurring gift donors? I'm a huge fan of book clubs. Think about what your organization does and see if there's a book out there that you may be able to offer to your recurring gift donors and get them involved. It's just another little piece of stewardship. A lot of our work also is in animal welfare. There was recently a great book written about the history of the humane movement. We have some of the organizations that we work with that asked their recurring donors to join them in a book club. They were able to Zoom in the author of the book, who is a great guy, and really have access to something unique. Don't think about starting or increasing or making your recurring giving program more robust if you're only interested in revenue. Also remember, keeping your donors and donor stewardship is equally as important. I am occasionally an okay fan, I should say, of pens and calendars and decals and whatnot. Keep in mind, these are donors who, for the purposes of our conversation, are going to give to your organization every month. They are going to start to feel like their gift doesn't matter if all they're getting is the same thank you note month after month. I'm a member of a few recurring giving programs myself. I got 3 of the same thank you notes on the same day for my June, July, and August gift last year. Same handwritten note from a student from a higher education institution. It made me feel like my gift didn't really matter, because nobody at that organization had the wherewithal to realize this is the same guy giving the same amount month after month after month. The gift date was changed, but even the handwritten note was exactly the same. So it's hard sometimes to keep your recurring giving donors engaged, because ultimately, in the beginning, like I said, you're setting and forgetting it, they're setting and forgetting it, but don't do that. Talk about stewardship a little bit. Like I said, don't let your donors feel like they're being taken for granted. The occasional unique engagement tool is really important. The engagement donor gift as well. 2 things that I will share with you I've seen work effectively for organizations when it comes to stewardship. And we're starting with stewardship because I think it's really important for organizations that have a program, that have recurring gift donors, to think today about how to steward and thank their recurring giving donors in a very unique way. I shared at the top that I'm a former student phonathon caller. I love phonathons. I think phonathons are where it's at still to this day, more so now than ever. Think about having your board members call these recurring gift donors just to say thank you. Share with them some updates about the organization, make them feel committed, because it might be a little challenging to turn off a recurring gift, but if you want to, you really can. So never lose sight of the fact that your recurring givers can lose you. Your retention, or excuse me, or could leave you. Your recurring giving donors are certainly going to have a higher retention rate than your general donors, but they can walk away from you at any time. Don't offer them the opportunity to do that. And I'm also a big fan of the power of video. If you take nothing from this presentation other than these 2 points, calling people to say thank you, start a phone-a-thon program for your recurring gift donors to say thank you, and think about the power of video. If you work at an organization where video is okay, not a social service organization or domestic violence or anything like that. I know a lot of those organizations cannot use photos and videos, understandably. But if you're in education, if you're in animal welfare, if you're in, I saw somebody from Habitat for Humanity, the power of saying to donors, this is what's happening right now because of your gift and your support, because of you, this is happening. The power of video is very strong. We all have turned into cameramen or camera operators in our lifestyle. We all have phones that have better cameras than they had 30 years ago. So we can take video and pictures and share, if appropriate, share with our recurring giving donors. So we talked about a lot of stewardship. We talked about the rationale. Now is the time to not only think about starting or making your program more robust, but now is also the time to make sure you're working to keep the donors you have, because January is the most popular month to start a recurring gift, which means there's competition out there for you. Some of you on the call, I'm sure, have a well-branded, well-messaged, well-marketed, concept program. But for those of you on the call who do not, I'm going to talk about marketing and promotion. Recurring giving programs just don't happen. There's work that has to go into it. So let's talk quickly about branding, messaging, and ultimately, who is your target audience? I believe that every recurring giving program needs to have a name. It can be cute, it can be fun, it can be whatever it wants, but you've got to make your donors feel a sense of belonging. Think about, I'm sharing Compassionate Caregiver, which is an animal welfare one, but Faithful Friends, the Loyalty Society, whatever it is, and it can be something unique to your organization that lets your donors feel that sense of belonging. And it is easy for you to market. And think about adding an action tagline in your branding and marketing messages. I always encourage our clients when it comes to things like compassionate caregivers. That means something to me once I'm in it, but I don't know what it means before I join. So think about an action tagline. Long Island Humane's most loyal donors, ensuring unwavering support for injured surfers in need. I don't know where I came up with that one, but that's an interesting one. Don't forget the marketing part of it. I think too often in fundraising, we put these plans together and we hope that people join. We've got to tell them why. We've got to tell them what's important. And we've got to tell them that recurring giving is just not about giving or getting more money from them or getting more consistent money. It's about making an impact. Use your messaging and your marketing materials around your recurring giving program to share that. These are our organization's most loyal donors by joining this society, or they are the most impactful donors. Whatever it is at your organization that means something to you, think about using that messaging to inspire and encourage people to join. How do you identify your target audience? I hope for everyone on this call, you have tens of thousands of donors and you just don't know what to do with all of them, and it's hard to manage all of them. But for most nonprofit organizations, we don't have tens of thousands of donors, but we do have a good list of donors. And the truth of the matter is that those donors, not all donors, are going to be interested in doing this. You're making a commitment. Don't forget that those donors who are joining your recurring giving program are making what is probably going to be a monthly commitment to your organization. Think about, once you brand and market your program, think about doing some target marketing to your target audience. Those are donors who have always given, or who have already given, and this is tough in January, so look at 22 versus 21. Donors who have always increased their gift. I don't know about you, but it is easier, as I said before, it's easier for me to write 10, $20 checks than it is for me to write one $200 check. But if I'm at an organization that is, and my giving is increasing every year, that's showing to you that I'm committed to the cause of your organization. I want to do more. Give me an opportunity to make an even bigger impact by making that gift over 12 months. Donors will always give via credit card. The vast majority of your recurring gifts are going to come in via credit card. I will share with you, and folks I know in this field will make fun of me for it. And if anybody on this call knows me, you will make fun of me for it. Every recurring giving program I'm a member of, I don't do via credit card. And I do that for two reasons. One, I don't want the organization to have to pay the credit card fee, but also I want a little bit more control about when those checks are going out. So I have it automatically set up for my bank that on the first of the month, these 5 organizations get this amount of money each, and it goes. So I am a member of recurring giving programs, but I'm not giving via credit card. That's okay. But if you have donors who have always given to you via credit card, they might be better prospects for a recurring giving program because they're already used to that electronic way of giving. Donors who have given to you twice, two-time donors, those who have given to you more than once in a year, think about marketing to them. Again, showing you a level of commitment beyond the average donor. So to me, that says they want to be involved in your organization in target this message to them as well. And certainly email is a good way to do it. I will share a little bit later some examples of some direct mail I've done to encourage recurring giving donors. Don't forget direct mail. We'll dive into that a little bit later. In your marketing and your branding, now that you've identified your target market and your target audience, think about telling a story. I think too often in the nonprofit space, we talk about our needs. We need more money to do this. We need. Talk about outcomes and impact. After this call, if you've got some time to think about what we've been talking about today, go out and gather 3 real life outcomes-based stories of recurring giving donors. For those of you who have recurring giving societies, and those of you who don't, just go out and get 3 good donor stories examples and include that in your marketing efforts. Because of our field partners, I think that's the Nature Conservancy's recurring giving program. Because of our field partners, we were able to save 22 children in need. That is probably actually not the Nature Conservancy, but either way. So in that message, we've talked about the branded name of the program, and we're talking about outcomes. So gather those 3 stories. Instead of sending a direct mail piece or an email out to donors and saying, we need you to join a recurring giving program because of this, inspire people to join by saying, because of our recurring giving donors, this has happened. Would you consider joining them to make a bigger impact? Always focus on impact and outcomes. Don't talk about needs of your organization. And of course, if you can find someone to provide you a donor testimonial, that always makes a bigger impact. Talk quickly about a cultivation plan. Make sure we've talked about the things that need to happen, the marketing, the branding, the story gathering. Don't forget that you should have a plan. You should have a scheduled plan for when you're going to cultivate your target market of donors. Don't forget different communications channels, email. Remember, email will be huge in all of this. We'll talk about direct mail a little bit later. Focus on your messaging. Remember, these are your donors who are the most loyal to you or who will be the most loyal to you. Talk about big, lofty ideas. This is a way for our most loyal donors to make a consistent impact over the year and a larger impact. Some of our most loyal donors have decided to increase their gift by 10% and spread it out over 12 months. Show people the math in all of your cultivation plan and all of your communication efforts. It's important for them to see the size of the impact they may have. When you're branding your program, you're getting it all together. Don't forget to have a frequently asked questions page on your website. I would encourage folks to do that. And some folks will feel hesitant to understand or ask questions. Can I give via check? Do I have to give monthly? There are a lot of questions out there that people may have that you want to ask, and remove that roadblock for people to talk about. As I said, call frequent donors and softly. Oh, let me talk about a little bit about that. Sorry, I meant to talk about that on the other screen. So cultivate, certainly have an FAQ page on your website. I think that's really important. You may also want to consider calling your frequent donors right now and just sharing with them your branded program. If you're not comfortable calling your donors, think about instead sending them an email. I just wanted you to know, excuse me, handwritten note. I just wanted you to know about our Field Partners program. A lot of donors who have made similar levels of commitment to the organization like you have decided to join our program and make a consistent impact over the year. Think about those frequent donors, because donor retention, as I said, is really important here. So if you're comfortable having those conversations with some of your most frequent donors and letting them know, hey, every year we noticed you gave $500. Thank you so much. I wanted to share with you this recurring giving program. If you want to, make it a commitment over a year, we've got a way for you to do that. Sort of like buying a new washing machine, might be speaking from personal experience here. 0% interest over 12 months just makes it feel a little bit better than having to spend the entire amount of money on one unfun Saturday night. And let's talk about solicitation. As I said, don't discount direct mail. And remember to have that multi-channel approach. The average lifespan of a direct mail piece is about 16 days in your house. I know for sure it is, because I've got piles of them out in my house that I haven't read through yet. The average lifespan of an email is about 16 seconds. So don't forget to email and then send a piece of direct mail to encourage folks to join this program. As I said before, don't forget, or please consider the power of video. Yeah, so I'm just seeing in the chat, John, yes, absolutely, this presentation will go out. Simonne made a very important point to my credit card fee comment, that 91% of Harness donors will cover credit card fees. Absolutely. I'm an old man on the inside, so I love the idea of sending actual paper checks, because again, I'm old school. But don't forget that if your payment processor doesn't have that opportunity for people to cover the fee, to cover the credit card fee, definitely get that in there. We see it more and more that people understand there's a credit card fee. It's like a convenience fee. People will do it more and more. I feel cheap when I don't, frankly. So make sure your credit card processor has that capability. Certainly, I am monitoring the chat too. So if there's anything that folks are thinking about as it comes up, don't forget. Don't hesitate to put something in the chat. We will leave time for questions at the end. So talked a little bit about this before, and I want to be sure to talk about it again, the importance of stewardship. We've all been in relationships that we have felt forgotten about, right? Don't want to make this into a therapy session for anybody, but for some of you on this call, there have been situations where friendships have fizzled because you just were not paid attention to. Don't let this be like that. Too often in the nonprofit space, we have our recurring gift donors who give every month, and after a while we forget them, and then they feel forgotten. So don't do that. talk a little bit more about some ways to engage with these donors. Even if it's $25 a month, these folks are giving to you every single month. Remember what I said in the beginning, that not only are these donors the most loyal in terms of giving to you month after month after month, they're also the ones that care about you the most. Think about what you spend monthly. You're probably paying your electric bill, you're paying your mortgage, you're paying for your car payment, all the things you need. And then nonprofit organizations are in that list too. They have prioritized you in their life. Don't forget that. So do not send the same letter out over and over and over again. And I can't express to you enough that stewardship is not a tax receipt. Think about being creative, like I said, a book club, asking a survey, or sending folks a survey, making those thank you calls, recognizing donor loyalty. I had a situation where I gave 100 gifts, apparently, to an organization, to my alma mater, I should say, over, I think, 20 years, I guess. I don't know how long it's been, but when I made my 100th gift, which, let me tell you, my name is not on a building anywhere on that campus, the director of development called and said, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know that this gift you recently made in support of a scholarship for a former dean of students was your 100th gift to the organization. Thank you so much." I certainly had no idea. And we're not talking a lot of money over time, but over the course of over 20 years, I guess I have made a number of gifts. I mean, I know I make at least 12 a year. So they call, at least now I do. I didn't in the beginning. But anyway, so I got that phone call for my 100th gift, which was like $25. But I just thought, somebody took the time to go into the system and realize that it was my 100th gift. That really cemented my loyalty. So maybe it's not 100 for you, maybe it's 20, maybe it's 10 years of giving. Whatever it is, make that phone call just to say thank you. We are so used to electronic communication today. Right? We're so used to Zoom, we're used to text, we're used to email. When my phone rings, and of course I let it go to voicemail most of the time and then listen to the message, it is, it's like earth shattering. So think about making those phone calls. Providing a facility tour to donors is huge, and providing a level of access. Inviting donors to come to the gala a little bit, or your recurring gift donors to come to the gala a little bit early, inviting them to some premier volunteer opportunities, whatever it is. We spend a lot of time in the nonprofit space chasing who we perceive to be rich donors. And there's a method to that, and that's okay. But this allows you to identify those donors who are your most loyal donors. And you don't want to lose sight of that for future cultivation. Now, there is the occasional situation where things can go wrong, and we don't want you to have to. We don't want you to face those. We want to help you navigate around them. There are some natural exit points that come up in the recurring giving situation. Mostly January. Most folks start the recurring giving in January, but a lot of folks use January as a reevaluation tool. I would run a report today and see, who gave to you in October, November, December, and who has not given to you yet in January. Those are folks who may have said, you know what, this organization is no longer my priority. I'm going to spend that money somewhere else. I will tell you, I did that. We made some philanthropic changes in our household recently. And when my January check did not arrive, I got a phone call. And I will admit to you that I was too chicken to admit that I didn't want to be a donor anymore. And I said, oh, that must have been an error. And I added them back into the pile. So make sure you're paying attention to those natural exit points. Don't forget to do good donor stewardship in November and December. But January is a month for joining. January is also the month for people to leave you. A simple loss of connection happens a lot. Donors will stop giving to you because they think they don't matter to you. Don't let them think that. Make sure you're inviting them, you're involving them, You're giving them access to things to make sure that they're always connected to your organization. The other thing I'll share with you is expired credit card. It happens to us a lot. I know a lot of good payment processors will automatically update credit card expiration dates, or they will automatically send an email to a donor and say, "Hey, your credit card has expired. Please update it here." But that's a phone call. Don't let anybody tell you anything differently. If you get a rejection for a credit card for either a bad number, a bad credit card number, or a changed expiration date, pick up the phone and call that donor. If you don't have a phone number, certainly email. But just say, "I just wanted to let you know your credit card on file with us has expired. Can I update it, or can I send you the link for you to update it?" A lot of people don't realize what is coming in and out of their bank account every month. God bless them, but there are a lot of people who don't. So they may not notice that they stopped giving to your organization. It's not an awkward phone call. 90% of the time, people will say to you, "I had no idea. Thank you so much. Please send me the link and I will update it." So when you see an expired credit card, don't just assume that the donor is going to automatically update that. They're probably not going to do that. Navigating roadblocks, let's quickly talk about, in the interest of time, navigating some roadblocks. A lot of folks will say it's too hard to make a recurring gift. You've got to have an easy online way to do it. Harness offers some great opportunities, as do other platforms, to easily make a recurring gift. I have a limited budget to make this happen. Hear that a lot too. That's fine. It doesn't have to be crazy fancy. It should cost you nothing to brand your program and get some language together and make sure you have a good payment processor to do that. And if you hate your database, you know, with all due respect to every database out there, I know a lot of people struggle with all of them in different ways. Don't let your database be a roadblock. You should really just be branding and marketing your program, sending out some emails, and make sure you have a payment processor. Certainly make sure that you can get these gifts into your database. Because if I'm giving to you $25 a month, I want to make sure that that's on my record in your database. But don't let that be a roadblock. That's really the message I want to share with you on that. Think about too, as you evaluate your program, for those of you who have had a program for a while, think about evaluation. Are you, in order to prove worth at your organization for this type of program, are you tracking the number of dollars that have been raised via your recurring giving program? Is that going up? It's okay every year too to ask people to consider increasing their gift. I got a phone call recently from an organization and they said, "You give blank every month. Would you consider increasing that gift to blank?" Certainly, it was an increase of $20, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it was almost a $250 increase, right, over the course of the year. So make sure that you're assessing and evaluating your program's performance. Have you seen an increase in dollars raised? Have you seen an increase in average monthly gift of donors? Monthly donor retention, how many folks are giving you month after month? It shouldn't be a lot, if any at all. And ultimately, how many people are in your donor, who are in your recurring giving program? You probably, for those of you who don't have a giving program, you have some people who are already giving to you more than once a year anyway. They're members. Start talking that up about folks who are making a commitment to your organization. Again, remember I said it doesn't always have to be folks who give to you monthly. It can be people who are giving to you weekly. It can be giving semi-annually, bi-monthly, however it is. But they've set it and forget it. And that's the way, really, or one of the ways I should say, for folks to be identified in your recurring giving program. Remember, you're inviting the donor to be a part of something exciting. This is a really great way for people to have a great impact at your organization. Don't lose sight of that. And ultimately, if you can't handle the logistics um, of setting this program up, don't do it. If you can't make the time and investment to market and brand and steward your donors, don't do it. Focus on this project, on a recurring giving program, as a way for donors to feel connected more to you first. And then certainly we can't deny that there's an opportunity to increase revenue for your organization. I'm going to share just a few examples and then certainly open it up to questions. So Simonne, while I'm doing that, feel free um, to prepare for hopefully the onslaught of questions that I will be prepared to answer in the most intelligent way I can. But just sharing with you an example of a postcard that we sent out for one of our clients, the Berkshire Humane Society in Pittsfield, Mass. We had a link on the other side of this. We were able to get a little cute. We did this in January. This actually showed a 20% increase in the number of compassionate caregivers, which is the branded name of their program, as a way, excuse me, their branded program saw a 20% increase as a direct result of this postcard. There was also a very similar looking email that went out. And then the third part of that series was actually a letter that we said, Mike, last year you gave $200. Would you consider joining our compassionate caregiver program and making a gift of $20 a month, which you and I both know is an increased gift, but folks feel like they're making a more consistent impact. It's really all about marketing. I think that's the secret that I would ask everyone to sort of take away, is that the importance of a recurring giving program or the success of a recurring giving program has more to do with your marketing efforts and your communications efforts to your donors than anything else. Talk about it early and often and wide. This is another postcard we did. The front over on the right is very similar to the Berkshire Humane postcard. And then on the left, there was on the back of the postcard, there were some reasons and rationale as to why people should join their recurring giving program. And then this was actually the letter that went out a little bit later talking about the Ram Warrior Society, which for Springfield Technical Community College, their mascot is a ram, and that is, we branded it after their branding of the ram. So quickly, like I said, target audience is key. Branding a program with a name creates a sense of belonging. Don't let logistics be a handle, be a hurdle. Don't forget stewardship and put some effort into this. If I'm giving to your organization every single month, I expect some type of communication, and you can automate stewardship on great platforms like Harness and others. Not making this into a sales pitch because I'm not on the Harness team, but every great organization or every great database, I should say, can help you automate stewardship. So not only do you get a thank you email, but maybe as a direct follow-up, a week later, you get a phone call or impact report or access, whatever it is. Come up with something unique. Admittedly, if I've given 100 gifts to your organization, it's going to be hard to be creative after a while, of course, but that doesn't mean that you still can't try. That doesn't mean that you can't just drop a quick email that is different and say thank you every day. Ultimately, set it and forget it is for the donor. It is not for the organization. Allow your donors to set and forget their gift and their impact to you, but don't ever forget the donor's impact to you. So, Simonne, with that, I'll toss it back over to you. Adriana, happy to provide you any of those examples. Drop me an email and I can do that. But Simonne, I'll hand it over to you to wrap this up. And thank you, by the way, in case I don't get to say this now, thank you to the Harness team for the opportunity to be here today. There's a lot of good information. Don't be overwhelmed by just the complexity of what could be your recurring giving program. Start small and work strategically, and ultimately you'll see great growth.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michael. And everyone, share your favorite emoji to show some support for Michael. That was an awesome presentation, so much information. So I will take over the screen. We do have a question that came in. It is Harness specific. I'm going to ask it out loud, see if you have any good answers for it, but I would love to send it to our customer success team to give lots of options for this answer. So Lisa says, and I can actually put it on the screen, I believe. After the ask, when you get a yes, what's next? Do you send them the link for the Harness platform? Let's just imagine it's not just the Harness platform that leaves it in their hands. What's the alternative?
I did the most 2020 thing ever and put myself on mute. Yes. Send them the link. If they want to, join in another way, like I said, I'm old school. I love a check. That's certainly my prerogative to do it. The vast majority of folks will do it online. So send them that link right away. And if you don't see their gift start within a week or so, gently remind them. I mean, I think we are all guilty of being in situations where we say, "Oh yeah, we're going to do that," and then it completely slips our mind. So don't hesitate to remind folks, but definitely send them a link and allow them to do it. Some folks will use a credit card, their favorite credit card, because they get points, and I feel like they're benefiting both them and the organization. So absolutely send that link. One of the best or biggest, I think, what's the word I'm looking for, comebacks ever as COVID, as a direct result, I think, of COVID, has been the QR code. So don't hesitate to think about embedding the link to your recurring giving program giving page into a QR code. Send that to folks. If my mom knows what a QR code is, the rest of the world should.
That's so true. Adriana says, fantastic webinar. So that's big kudos to Michael. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So I do have a few questions that came in, and I will keep asking them as they come in live as well. So don't be afraid to ask. I'm sure if you have the question, other people do as well. So question for you, Michael, what strategies have you found to be effective in acquiring new donors? I know you talked about existing donors and even a small database, but what advice do you have for acquiring new monthly donors?
Believe it or not, direct mail. I assume for the purposes of this question, we're talking about donors who have never given to your organization. Donor acquisition is still very big via direct mail. Folks don't like getting emails from organizations they've never heard of. So think about direct mail, and you can I always encourage folks, to ask for a specific amount of money. So when you're thinking about doing donor acquisition, asking people to give, let's just say $50 as their first gift, or $5 a month for 12 months. So embed that in the reply vehicle, give them a specific one-time ask amount, or ask them to join your recurring giving program at, for the purposes of this example, $5 a month. For 12 months. The secret there is that folks who will join at the $5 a month level are very unlikely to turn it off. But if they are first-time donors, steward them on hyperdrive, because you don't ever want to risk losing them.
Yeah, excellent answer. I'd like to add just one level to that. If you're already putting a lot of effort into social media and mail and driving people to your website, I think having an excellent checkout flow also really helps in making that ask for you. So just putting it out there, our one-time donation has the option to do a smart ask, which we call it, which will actually ask someone to donate less in a monthly recurring giving fashion. So there are other ways as well to utilize the website, which you're already working on, other social media posts and other types of marketing. And so your work is just bringing people to the website and letting your website do that for you.
Don't forget social media, because although direct mail is still the best way to acquire new donors, you never know who is stalking your Facebook page. And talk about those stories. I talked about identifying, because of our recurring giving donors, this happened. Share that story on Facebook, ask people to join, link easily, let them join at a $5 or $10 a month level. And that's another great way. Direct mail is going to be number one, social media probably number two.
Absolutely. All right, second question. You didn't touch, and we weren't going to go too much into the data, but the question we have is, how do we measure the impact and success of our monthly giving program? And I'm assuming besides the obvious, I have more money.
Yeah, donor retention. I mean, certainly dollars in the door is, at the end of the day, that's why most fundraising people are in fundraising, is to raise money. So money in the door is very important, but donor retention. What percentage of donors are you keeping year over year after year who are in your recurring giving program? It's really easy to forget to send a check once a year. It's really hard to go in and turn off a credit card payment. So look at donor retention. Your donor retention for your recurring giving donors should be astronomically high in the 80s or 90%. Not only, and keep in mind too, those donors are the ones who are most loyal. Those are the ones who may have more resources than you know. So I think if, especially if you're thinking about a major gift campaign or something, grandiose for your organization, donors who are given to you every month shows commitment, and there's probably more wealth out there. You just have to go find it.
Absolutely. On the topic of retention, I have one that says, how do we retain existing monthly donors during a crisis or a downturn in the economy? So I don't know if you have any specific examples on that, but I think that's a great question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. These are your most loyal donors. Giving them reason to not do that, I think, is very important. And how you do that is keep talking about stories. Because of our most loyal donors, this has happened. Thank you. Thank you. Consider, and this is a gut check for your organization or an individual decision, maybe not asking them to give more. I'm a big fan of, if I gave $5 a month this year, ask me for 10 next year. You may not want to do that. You can also say to donors who are thinking about cutting back, could we do every other month? Would you consider, instead of giving your monthly gift monthly, could you do every other month? So you're still keeping them in, yes, at a lower level, but ultimately donors will remember that when they're able to give more.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the last question. We'll leave it open. It is 3 o'clock, Eastern time. If anyone has any other questions, Michael's contact information is on the screen. I'm sure he would be happy to hear from you. One other resource, I know that a lot of nonprofits are in the midst of the Amazon Smile news. So I do want to say, keep an eye out. Harness has a really good blog coming out on Monday about the topic, what to do about it, and a few other resources. So if that is something that is on top of your mind, keep an eye out for that. Maybe Michael has more information on what to do about that as well, how to handle it. But I do want to thank you, Michael, for your time. This was an excellent webinar. We have some really good feedback in the audience. I will ask, please stay on for a 20-second survey. Super quick. It will pop up right on the screen. But I do hope everyone found this information helpful. And as a reminder, Harness Giving, we're committed to providing you with the best fundraising expertise and knowledge. That's why we bring experts like Michael from various fields to speak on topics they know best. So thank you so much, everybody. And that concludes our webinar.